Chapter 324 to 326. By the time Tsukihai completed the 4-symbol seal array, Shisui also brought Shino back to the power room. When Shisui looked at the power room that was almost covered with the fluorescent light of the found symbol seal array, he was literally dumbfounded. Did you just arrange this entire array in such a short time? Tsukihai smiled and nodded triumphantly. How about it? It should be more than enough to seal Morio, right? You are capable of such a feat, no wonder Kuroto-san chose to give you the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. Shisui suddenly looked at Uchiha Tsukihai in a new light. In the field of Fuinjutsu, Shisui also has quite a lot of understanding, therefore, he easily recognized the seals in the array are 4-symbol seal, but their sheer number really shocked him. The difficulty of keeping one 4-symbol seal active at a point is already quite high, not to mention keeping hundreds of them active. Such a feat is not something that just anyone can do. However, instead of acting proud, Tsukihai casually said, this pair of eternal Manjikyu Sharingan is only temporarily in my eye sockets. As long as you need it, or should the need arise for someone else to use, it will be given to that individual. A pair of eternal Manjikyu Sharingan may hold immeasurable value for some, but for Hyuga Kuroto, it is just a useful tool for him and holds some research value. What's more, when Kuroto would use Chimera technique in the future, the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan will have to be removed as any foreign DNA that does not consist of Kuroto's own DNA will not be used. As such only, the semi-finished pair of Byakugan that were initially present will be used. Therefore, eternal Manjikyu Sharingan holds no importance for Kuroto's final plan. However, Shisui didn't know that, and he was seriously shocked by what Tsukihai said so casually. Even in the face of eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, you are still not greedy and can easily let go of it? I can't think of a better candidate for keeping those than you, said Shisui. Tsukihai said, you may not be able to, but I can think of better candidates. You are one, and Uchiha Itachi is the other one. Shisui shook his head and said, I can't say for Itachi, but I do not want nor need those eyes. I have already talked about this with Kuroto-san, so you can rest assured. I just hope that you won't misuse them, and can continue to contribute to Konoha, and protect the village from the shadows. Seeing that pair of eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, Shisui is always reminded of Uchiha Ryota and Uchiha Hideki, therefore, he has sort of a subconscious resistance towards those eyes. After all, he was partly responsible for what they experienced. This makes him feel guilty. For this reason, Shisui has never once thought of transplanting this pair of eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, even when his eyesight has started to decline. Seeing that Shisui was a little depressed, Tsukihai decided to change the subject and asked, so have you checked the layout of Anchor Vantion? Shisui immediately let go of those depressing thoughts and nodded, yes. Tsukihai asked, and did you find something useful? Shisui nodded, if we are talking about useful I wouldn't say much, but there are 3 warehouses that do store a lot of materials. From the looks of it, the third was still being filled, but probably because of our attack, their work came to a halt midway. I asked and confirmed from Shino, those materials that are left to be transported here are not far away. That saves a lot of trouble for the matter of funds. Tsukihai immediately perked up with a joyful smile. Come on, let me see those warehouses. Shisui nodded and then walked together with Tsukihai under the leadership of dazed Shino. The 3 of them quickly arrived at the place where the material that the shinobi of the Land of Sky did not have time to transfer was kept. And Tsukihai was highly surprised to find that all the flying instruments of the Land of Sky as well as other instruments that can be used in conjunction were here. Tsukihai did remember that in the original story, the shinobi of the Land of Sky did have these flying instruments using which they conducted their air raid on Konohagakure, making Godame Hokage, Senju Tsunade as well as other Konoha shinobi almost helpless in the face of this sudden surprise air raid. Picking up one of the flying tools, Tsukihai tried weighing it approximately. These instruments are mostly made up of metal, and their wingspan when fully expanded is almost 2 meters wide. After some rough calculations, Tsukihai estimated that each of these flying instruments contains around 20 kilograms of iron. Next, she did the same with the firearm. This is a type of gun that is capable of firing kunai, shuriken, and senbon as projectiles. There are also those bullets and small grenade-like bombs that do not have a lever. With all these instruments in hand, each shinobi can be regarded as a low-level Deidara. Tsukihai turned her head to Shino and asked, all these flying instruments are functioning? Shino replied, there are about 100 sets here, a few of which needs to be repaired and they will be up and running. 100 sets. There was a flicker in Tsukihai's eyes when she thought of this number. This number is more than enough to form a small-scale air force. Shisui was curious about these flying instruments and asked Shino, what is the working principle of these flying instruments? Shino pointed at the end of the instrument and started explaining, here is an ejection device. To reach a high altitude, the ejection device can give the necessary power output and air thrust. Next Shino pointed at the metallic wings and continued, after the user reaches a suitable altitude, all you need to do is use the flowing winds and use your own chakra to activate the seal imprinted on the wings and glide using the wind. Both Shisui and Tsuki are well informed and they soon understood the mechanism. In short, it's like a glider after reaching a suitable height. But it also has its own disadvantages. This device is less flexible, which was clearly depicted from the fact that Sai was able to beat them with the flexibility and agility of his ink bird. Tsukihai thought, as long as there is a chakra input these devices will function properly. If that's so, I can seal chakra and then use my Tenseigan to control these instruments as puppets. Just as Tsukihai started to make plans for a suitable puppet air brigade, Itachi returned, I have erased all the traces of our presence, and any and all those shinobis of the land of sky that were left alive have also been eliminated. It is unlikely that anyone escaped. Tsukihai was broken out of her thoughts, and nodded, all right, next we must seal Morio in the power room, and then prepare to take off with Anchor Vantion. The sooner they leave the better. There is no telling if someone will chase behind Shino, and if they will then how long will it take for them to catch up, so the sooner they disappear the better. Looking at the giant pile of flying instruments in front of him, Shisui said, it will take a lot of time to carry so many of these. As soon as Shisui's voice fell, the skeletal body Golden Susanoo appeared on the field. Both Shisui and Itachi immediately understood Tsukihai's thinking. Tsukihai wants to use the Susanoo to carry these flying instruments inside Anchor Vantion, but using Susanoo, the strongest power of the Manjikyu Sharingan power for the coolie work was sort of unacceptable for both Itachi and Shisui. Tsukihai didn't seem to notice Shisui and Itachi's awkwardness and said with a chuckle, with this transporting these instruments will be a piece of cake, both of you don't even have to help. This is the advantage of having the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. Because of the inevitable blindness, Shisui and Itachi have to be frugal in regards to using Manjikyu Sharingan, as their eyesight will become weaker the more they use Manjikyu Sharingan. As such, unless absolutely necessary, they would generally avoid using techniques like Susanoo and other specific ocular powers. But Tsukihai is different in this regard. With the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan at her disposal, the ocular power will always recover, so using Susanoo for such a task is full a possibility. Using the Susanoo, Tsukihai easily moved all the materials into the third warehouse of Anchor Vantion. Next, the four of them moved back to the power room. Shisui asked at this time with a solemn expression, are you sure you want to seal Morio in the full body state? Tsukihai nodded and explained, I have arranged such an advanced four-symbol array for this very purpose. Extracting chakra from him in this state would be most efficient. Shisui nodded, all right, but Morio's chakra is too large to be controlled so easily. If I use Genjutsu and stimulate Shino to remove Morio from inside him, there is a possibility that something can happen, so you must be careful. Tsukihai nodded and also signaled Itachi on the side. With both of them ready, Shisui did not waste any more time and directly activated his Manjikyu Sharingan to control Shino's actions with a Genjutsu. And under the control, Shino, whose chakra is sealed by Tsukihai, could not pose even the slightest of resistance and immediately deactivated the seal of Morio. With the seal deactivated, Morio's purple-black chakra started to escape out of Shino. Under the rush of chakra, his own consciousness was also disrupted, and he showed signs of struggling as if he was trying to break free of Shisui's Genjutsu. Just as Shisui was preparing to use more ocular power to control Shino, Tsukihai signaled him not to do so. As more and more of Morio's chakra escaped out of Shino, the four-symbol seal array printed in the power room begun to take effect. As such, whether Shino regains his consciousness now doesn't matter. Shisui complied and deactivated his Manjikyu Sharingan, and Shino finally managed to break free of the effect of Genjutsu. As soon as he woke up, the first thing he spotted was the figures of the three Uchiha dressed as Homusubi standing on three sides. Neither of the three bothered to answer, as Tsukihai created foreshadow clone and started printing hand seals to complete the sealing array. Looking at the five Uchiha Tsukihai, Shino's gaze finally landed on the dense symbols that gave off fluorescent light, and he immediately realized that something very bad is about to happen. No, wait, what, please you can't do this. Konohagakure, Hyuga clan. On the calm and peaceful night, the famous Hyuga brothers, Hayashi and Hizashi sat in the courtyard of Hayashi's house, busy in some casual conversation. After a while, Hizashi finally took a deep breath and said, Ni-san, I have thought a lot in the past few days, and I think that the Hyuga clan must change. Hayashi was surprised. He raised his eyebrow and beckoned Hizashi to continue. What do you mean? Hisashi relayed Kuroto's exact words to Hayashi and added, I think Kuroto-kun's words are very reasonable. Although Gentle Fist is the foundation of Hyuga clan, it is also limiting us. If we hope to thrive during the upcoming chaotic years of the shinobi world, then we must adapt, and to do so we must change. Gentle Fist is also the limitation of the Hyuga clan and we must change that or else. However, before Hisashi could finish speaking, Hayashi interrupted him midway, do not talk of such a matter here. What do you expect will happen should the elder hear you? Do you not understand the consequences? Hisashi quickly added, Ni-san, this is just a casual conversation between us, not a formal discussion during a clan assembly. I just want to know what are your opinions on this matter. Hayashi sighed lightly, I understand that you have a lot of dissatisfaction with main branch, but Gentle Fist and Bird Cage are the traditions of the Hyuga clan. You better than anyone understand that Bird Cage also protects Hyuga clan. It is only because of Bird Cage that the situation of Hyuga clan has always been more peaceful compared to Uchiha clan. As the patriarch, I cannot question the traditions, as for the matter of changing the clan. But before Hisashi could complete his words, suddenly an alarm sounded. Hisashi's expression shrank immediately, and he instantly stood up, no, this is the alarm of the forbidden section. Hisashi also realized the seriousness of the matter, does that mean that someone breached into the forbidden section? With a solemn face, Hayashi said, we will continue this discussion at a later date, for now I must check the possible cause. Hisashi of course nodded. With a serious face, Hayashi immediately rushed towards the forbidden section. Hisashi also closely followed. If someone broke into the forbidden section, then the situation is serious, as this kind of thing has happened first time in the history of the Hyuga clan, at least, first time ever since Bird Cage Juinjutsu was deployed a few centuries ago. By the time Hayashi and Hisashi arrived in the forbidden section, several guards had already arrived here. Everyone found two bodies collapsed at the gate of the forbidden section, both of them dead, and their eyes turned gray. Next, there was an old man with a withered face lying in the outer hall of the forbidden section. This old man too had no breath, indicating that he is dead, but what's more serious is that his eye sockets are hollow. The pair of Byakugan in his eye sockets has disappeared. Asahi-sama! Hayashi exclaimed, and immediately ran into the outer hall of the forbidden section. Hyuga Asahi, who is lying dead in the outer hall of the forbidden section, was one of the senior elder of the Hyuga clan council. Although his overall strength as a shinobi had seriously declined over the years because of his senior age, he was by no means a pushover. What's more, here is the forbidden section inside the highly secure compound where the members of the main branch reside. It is almost impossible for anyone to be able to kill an elder without alerting anyone. This is still the Hyuga clan residence with Hyuga shinobi crawling all over the place. It must not be forgotten that if the members of the branch division will try to target the members of the main division, then they can easily be controlled using the Bird Cage Juinjutsu. So it is very unlikely that someone from the branch division attacked Elder Asahi. Looking at those empty sockets, Hayashi had a gloomy look. The Hyuga clan has only ever lost a single Byakugan that was stolen by Ao of Kirigakure after he managed to kill one of the members of the main branch during the Third Great Shinobi War. Therefore, the fact that someone gouged out the pair of Byakugan from Elder Asahi's eye sockets is very problematic. This is a very serious yet shameful event for the Hyuga clan. As such, Hayashi immediately ordered, blockade the entire Hyuga residence compound, no one is allowed to enter or leave without my permission. After giving such an order, Hayashi immediately walked towards the deeper parts of the forbidden section. The forbidden section not only houses the various secrets of the Hyuga clan, including its history, some forbidden jutsu, various secret treasure that have been collected and passed down through the generations, including many other things. But most of all, it also stores the scroll of Bird Cage Juinjutsu. If the scroll of Bird Cage Juinjutsu is stolen, then that will be a very problematic situation. The branch system within Hyuga clan has been going on for hundreds of years, and if someone gets his hands on that scroll then he can cause chaos within the Hyuga clan. After entering the deeper chamber inside the forbidden section, Hayashi finally breathed a sigh of relief. The vault that stored the scroll of Bird Cage Juinjutsu wasn't opened by the intruder, it means that the scroll was not stolen, this is a blessing in the misfortune. After making sure that the scroll was not stolen, Hayashi further observed the vault to check if someone tried to steal this scroll. The size of the vault is not very big because there are not many things that are secretive enough to be stored here. The scroll of Bird Cage Juinjutsu is the only one. This vault is locked using a very complex seal. Only the patriarch and some of the senior elders of the main branch can release that seal. After his careful observation, Hayashi found traces of tempering on the seal, which means that some did try to break it. Which is the cause of the alarm being triggered. Although they failed, what's important is that someone really tried to break that seal. Meaning their goal of breaking into the forbidden section was indeed related to Birdcage. Looking away from the vault, Hayashi further checked the other areas of the library. And soon he discovered that the shelf recording the millennium years-long history of the Hyuga clan have been turned over. He walked quickly to the shelf and soon noticed that 3 scrolls were missing. What's more, all these 3 scrolls record the secrets of Byakugan as well as Birdcage seal. The purpose of the intruder is very clear. Although he failed at obtaining the exact thing he needed, he did obtain some resources, muttered Hayashi. Finally confirming that nothing else was touched or stolen, Hayashi walked out of the forbidden section to the outer hall. By now, a lot of people have gathered outside. Some were examining the corpses of Hyuga Asahi as well as the 2 guards of the branch division. By now, a lot of people have gathered outside. Some were examining the corpses of Hyuga Asahi as well as the 2 guards of the branch division. When they saw the patriarch coming through, one of the elders asked with a light murmur, "Is the scroll of Birdcage Juinjutsu safe?" Hayashi nodded lightly. After getting an affirmative reply from Hayashi, the elders of the main family breathed a sigh of relief. Even though they know that breaking the seal of the vault is almost impossible, so it is very unlikely that that intruder managed to steal the scroll, but they couldn't help but worry, because if that scroll really gets stolen then it would be very problematic. This is because the thief will get a method to control the lives of all members of the branch division, which is a serious threat, and this makes the elder shudder. At this time, Hayashi walked towards the corpse of Elder Asahi and asked, "What is the cause of Elder Asahi's death?" One of the shinobi of the branch division lifted the collar of Hyuga Asahi's, revealing a bite mark on the neck, and said, "Judging from the bite mark, it should be from the venom of a snake." "And the 2 guards?" asked Hayashi. Another Brock shinobi said, "Same reason." Hayashi frowned, "From a snake." At this time, one of the elder ordered, "The members of branch division leave the forbidden section for now." Hizashi asked angrily, "What do you mean? Do you suspect that we of the branch division are responsible?" When faced with Hizashi's question, this very elder was silent, but his eyes clearly showed his doubt and distrust towards the branch division. Needless to say, the intruder may have failed to steal the scroll of Birdcage. He did plant a seed of doubt and suspicion between the main family and the branch division. When Hayashi thought that the intruder did break into the forbidden section for the scroll of Birdcage, his expression turned cold and he ordered, "Hizashi, leave." In the face of his Hayashi's words, even Hizashi was helpless, and he had to lead the members of the branch division and leave the forbidden section. After all the members of the branch division were gone, Elder Haruto questioned Hayashi, "The scroll of Birdcage is safe, but was something else stolen?" Hayashi didn't conceal it and told everyone that some of the scrolls recording the history of Byakugan and Birdcage are missing, as well as the fact that someone tried to break the seal of the vault. Elder Haruto muttered, "So the objective was indeed the scroll of Birdcage." Another elder, named Hyuga Kazuto said, "I checked the list of visitors, no one outside of Hyuga clansmen has entered the residential area of main family today, so the intruder has to be someone of the branch division." Hayashi shook his head, "It couldn't be so easy. Do not forget what happened with my elder daughter a few years ago." Hayashi is not blindly covering the branch division, because if it really was someone of the branch division, then he would have been easily neutralized by Elder Asusher using Cage Bird. After all, as long as the members of the branch division are nearby, there is always a resonance that those with control over Birdcage can perceive. So Elder Asahi must have perceived that particular member of branch division coming close as well as the death of the 2 guards. So the possibility of the branch division can be ruled out, at least the one directly responsible for the death of 3 cannot be a member of branch division. At this time, Elder Ado, who was observing the body of Elder Asahi, said, "Someone who can instantly kill Elder Asahi as well as 2 guards, and also uses snakes, don't these things remind of someone?" Hayashi's face changed. "You mean Orochimaru?" Elder Ado nodded, "Yes, Orochimaru. Do not forget that Orochimaru attacked you at the time of his defection. I think everyone remembers that, right? Orochimaru did attack and stole some of Hayashi's cells before his defection. But Hyuga clan didn't make too big of an incident at that point, just informed Sandame and Yandame of that event." Hayashi asked Elder Ado, "Do you suspect someone of the branch division to be working with Orochimaru? Because he couldn't have sneaked here without being unnoticed." Elder Ado nodded, "Do not forget, Hyuga Kuroto was under Orochimaru, so it is possible that he is still working with Orochimaru." Hayashi thought about it a little, then shook his head. "I am sure it couldn't have been Hyuga Kuroto, but someone else of the branch division may be working with Orochimaru. Although the culprit being Orochimaru in the first place is very less likely." But we cannot ignore the matter that there is indeed a traitor in the clan. This very traitor might be the same person who was responsible for helping those shinobi of Kumogakure sneak inside and almost kidnapped Hinata. The elders all thought about it and then nodded. Indeed, at that time too it was Hyuga Kuroto who saved Hyuga clan from big trouble, so it has to be the traitor. After pondering for a while, Hayashi said, I trust Hizashi and he wouldn't be the culprit either. Moreover, when this incident happened Hizashi was with me, so he can be ruled out. I will have Hizashi conduct an investigation.